Welcome back, boys and girls. We're going to continue the story of Ruth, and we left Ruth in this field where she was gleaning or picking up wheat every single day. And then she went to another field and she saw a whole bunch of workers, and she thought, I'm going to work with them. So she did. Every day she worked and she brought home what they needed to make food for that day. She was helping Naomi by being a hard worker. Are you a hard worker? Do you help mommy and daddy with your chores? Maybe you could take out the trash. Maybe you can clean up your room. Be a hard worker just like Ruth. Well, Ruth goes every single day. And then one day she came to a field that belonged to a man named Boaz. There's Boaz. Say, hey, Boaz. Boaz was the owner of this field, and he's noticed Ruth. He noticed she was a hard worker. And he said, who is that lady? Oh, that's the Moabitish lady that lives with Naomi. She's her daughter-in-law, and her husband has passed away. Well, unbeknownst to Ruth and Naomi, Boaz was going to take care of them. So he continued to let her work among his workers, eat at their lunch table, and drink from their fountains and wells. He was providing for Ruth and Naomi. You see, Boaz was a relative of Naomi's. Well, one day, Boaz stops and talks to Ruth. He says, everybody knows you're a virtuous woman. Everybody knows you left the country of Moab and came to work here in Israel because you love your mother-in-law, Naomi, and because you love God. Go to anybody else's field. I want you to come and stay by my workers until the end of the barley harvest. And then after that, you can come after the next season because, farmers, they have all kinds of crops. They do all kinds of things. And so now Ruth was going to be provided for all harvest season long. Well, when Ruth heard that, she ran home to Naomi and said, guess what? I ran into a man named Boaz, and he said I could work with his workers all through the harvest. And she got so excited. She said, Ruth, Boaz is a near kinsman. He's my husband's brother. This is exciting. God has provided, and God is going to bless you because you're a hard worker. And that night, Ruth had brought home a whole bunch of wheat. You see, when Boaz was talking to her here, he had set aside several bushels of wheat for her to take home so that her and Naomi would have food. Well, meanwhile at dinner, Naomi is talking to Ruth. She says, Boaz is my husband's brother, and he can perform a Jewish tradition called the kinsman redeemer. Ruth, you can go. I want you to take a nice bath. I want you to clean up. I want you to put your best dress on, your best perfume. Use that. And you go and you sit at the feet of Boaz down at the threshing floor. Now, I don't know what Ruth thought at the time, but she's following her mother-in-law's advice. So she does this, and she goes and she sits at the feet of Boaz, and she tells Boaz when he wakes up, he's kind of scared. He's like, who goes there? She goes, it's Ruth. You must spread your skirt over me, for you are a near kinsman. He said, Ruth, your virtue is amazing. Your virtue goes beyond what any other girl might have done. Not only did you come from Moab and help your mother-in-law, you also worked in the fields for your mother-in-law, and you also now are holding to Jewish traditions. You sit still here and you can leave early in the morning, because let me tell you, I will help this matter and I will not stop until it is done. So Boaz goes into town and he says, there's another man that's closer in relation to you than I am. So I'm going to go and ask him if he wants to be the kinsman redeemer. So he goes and he meets with all the men of the town, and he calls his brother. He says, Ruth and Naomi are selling a piece of land. You know, our brother Elimelech, he has passed away. So we need you to buy this land if you want it. And so then the man goes, oh, sure, I'll take the land. He goes, but the day that you do, you have to marry Ruth and be her kinsman redeemer. Oh, he says, I can't do that. I have my own inheritance. He goes, Boaz, you can have it. And so what they did, this is kind of funny. They took off a shoe and they threw it in the air. And that meant that that deal was done. Today we sign contracts, but not in Jewish times. They had this thing with their shoe. It's kind of crazy, I know. And they traded shoes and threw it over their shoulders. And that meant Boaz gets to marry Ruth. And look here. Boaz marries Ruth and they have a baby named Obed. Do you know whose dad is Obed is? Guess what? It's Jesse. You're thinking, who's Jesse? Well, he's the father of King David. You know David. He fought Goliath. Isn't that neat? Ruth made it into the line of Christ because she made wise choices. What are you going to do today? Are you going to make wise choices? I hope so, boys and girls. Have a great day.